Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program where I guide students in a meditation. Today is going to be Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. And then I open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the teachings of the Buddha. This program meets each Sunday and Wednesday. On Sundays, I go through a chapter in this book, and this Sunday we're going to be in Chapter 11, which is titled Meditation, Developing Your Practice, where I'm going to go through and teach you the 4 different types of meditations that the Buddha taught. I'm going to help you to understand what you're eliminating from the mind and what you're cultivating, essentially the why behind each individual meditation, and then also helping you to understand how to actually meditate. So you're always welcome to join that class and any of the other classes that we have as we go forward in the months and in the years. We have classes, courses, and retreats that are available at no cost. So I'd like to welcome all of you guys to our class today, whether you're joining for the first time or you've been joining regularly, and at the same time invite you to join for meditation. And then afterwards, if you'd like to ask any questions, you're welcome to ask any and all questions, whether it's about meditation or any other aspect of the path to enlightenment, even personal challenges that you're having as well. So if you'd like to join for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. Seated, lying, and standing tend to walk really well for online learning, and a lot of students are in the seated position. So take whatever position's comfortable for you. I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then I'll come in with guidance. Then there'll be a period of time where it'll just be quiet and we're meditating together. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some chanting. And then that's where we'll open up to any and all questions that you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Hotang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakatoro Kavito Anutero purisa Dhammasati satatawap manusanang Bhoto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหะกวาพุทธังมหะกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหะกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, I'd like to welcome all of you, those of you guys that are here and joined us from the beginning, and those of you guys that joined us since we started meditating. Welcome to everyone. Nice to see you guys. Nice to know that you're interested in learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys know, the teachings of the Buddha are designed to help you move to this enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of these discontent feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. And there's other beneficial qualities that one is experiencing as well that I talk about in the various classes. So meditation is important to help you move to this enlightened mental state, but there's a whole host of teachings that you need to learn and understand, gain the wisdom of them, and then practice in your day-to-day life in order to experience the enlightened mind. So what I'm going to do is open up to any and all questions that you guys might have related to any aspect of the path to enlightenment, or any kind of even daily struggles that you're experiencing that you need help from the teachings of the Buddha with. So you can put those into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to see that and answer your question. And if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions or follow-up questions directly. So let me know if you guys have any questions for today. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. I was just getting ready to say I'd be a bit surprised if Yusuf does not have a question. And then Yusuf raises his hand. So go ahead, sir. What's your question?
Hi, good evening. I usually like to be the last one who asks any question. So if no one did ask, then I will. Today I don't have any hard questions, but I will ask that once you said that you have seen your past lives, is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Have you do you remember that you were an alien in one of them, living like in another planet or something?
Nope, I don't have any recollection of anything like that.
Oh, okay. So as I said, if no one asks, then I will. So check them and come back to me, okay?
Okay, I'll go ahead and check with Julia here. Julia has a question that says, "Thank you, teacher. I have trouble with my indecision. I have a lot of self-doubt, which I struggle with." Yeah, this can come from when we make decisions in the past and we experience a bunch of unwholesome results. We can second guess ourselves, or if we just feel like we haven't cultivated enough wisdom, this is where you can reach out with certain decisions that you're about to make, where you can kind of think through the situation and think through the decisions that you would make. And then you can check with somebody like me or somebody else maybe that you might trust and share with that person the situation and the decisions that you're about to make, so that you can hear what somebody else would have decided. And then that way it can kind of build your confidence. And most people in the world, they don't understand the natural law of karma, of cause and effect. So it's really helpful to talk with somebody who does understand that, because if people don't understand the natural law, then any advice or guidance or suggestions they give might be off based on that. So if you have any pending decisions, Julia, that you are considering to make, you're welcome to share with me what those are in your situation, either privately or publicly like this, and then it will help you to build your confidence so that more and more you can build your wisdom about how to make wise decisions through the teachings of the Buddha, but you can also build your confidence and see like, yeah, maybe you did have 50, 80, 100% of what I would have done. You're actually making maybe that same type of decision, or where you have, 50, 60 or 70% of the decision made, and you just need to learn that extra 30%, then great, you can learn that extra 30%. People aren't born being able to make good decisions, right? Or wise decisions, because you need to cultivate wisdom. And this is what we do in our life. And depending on how we've grown and what age we are, what experiences we've had, we may not have had the opportunity to cultivate certain wisdom about certain situations, especially when we're in our 20s and our 30s. We start thinking that by the time we're in our 30s that maybe we should know everything already. But I can share with you, even in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you're not going to know everything yet. There's plenty of things to learn in the world. So as long as you're continuing to cultivate wisdom, that's what's important. I see some follow-up here. I think maybe you're going to ask more. Let's see. I also have a hard time letting go of past decisions and regrets. My mind keeps wanting to go back to that. During meditation, I go back to past decisions or past events. I try to let go over and over again. Thank you again. Sometimes it's difficult to know if I've made a right decision until a lot of months later. Yeah, so the inability to let go of things that you've done in the past, this is because of the mind's craving and clinging, that the mind's holding on. So when we talk about craving, desire, attachment, we talk about this longing, yearning, the mind craving permanence. There's this other aspect to the mind that I talk about as you go forward in your education, where the mind clings and it holds on. It's the same thing where I talk about the mind craving permanence and wanting things to be permanent. So when you've had a certain experiences in the past, the mind just can't let it go. So even though you might intellectually know at this point, because you've been studying for a few months now, that you need to let go, the mind just won't do it. Right? Because there hasn't been enough training. And this is one of the struggles and one of the challenges on the path, is that you can start to intellectually understand the teachings and you might know exactly what you should be doing in any particular situation, but the mind just doesn't do it, or it won't do it. And this is a real struggle and a real challenge, because the mind hasn't accumulated enough benefits yet. Because it's only been 3 or 4 months that you've been studying with me and learning the original teachings of the Buddha, your mind hasn't accumulated enough benefits of doing breathing mindfulness meditation to train it to let go. And perhaps you haven't been practicing as much generosity. But these two things combined are going to train your mind to let go, and you need to be able to accumulate this over time. There's still going to be things that are sticking around in your mind, even when you're in the second and third stage of enlightenment, because your mind still hasn't fully eliminated everything it needs to eliminate yet. So there's still going to be things sticking around there. They won't be very big or very significant ones perhaps, but you're still going to have some things that the mind is holding on to. So this early like this, you're going to have plenty of things that the mind isn't willing to let go of. And that's where your dedication, your determination, and your diligence needs to come in, where you just dedicate your life, the rest of your life, to just gradually training this mind. And this is also where your confidence needs to come in, that you need to have confidence in the Buddha, his teachings, the community, your teacher, and your own ability to get to enlightenment, which is kind of a challenge early in practice. You don't have the confidence, right? There's like doubt there that, can I really get to enlightenment? Can this teacher actually guide me? Did the Buddha really live? Do these teachings really work? There's all these things circulating in the mind, but I can assure you that these teachings lead exactly where the Buddha said they do, to this enlightened mental state. And it's just a matter of being dedicated enough and diligent enough, having that confidence to see it through, that you just gradually chip away at this and gradually accumulate more and more benefits. And slowly but surely, you'll see that the mind's going to let go. The very deep cravings, the very strong ones, like I know you have a life partner, you have children, you might have a house or car or job or money or things like this. These are really hard for the mind to let go of because they're deeply rooted. Some of the easier ones that you might decide to look at are just smaller things like a mobile phone or, maybe some jewelry here or there, or some kind of lighter attachments like that, lighter cravings, because the mind will be more easily able to let those go, and you'll kind of feel the peace and the joy, the uplifted mind that comes from letting these things go. Not that you have to eliminate the object, right? You need to eliminate the craving for it or the clinging to it. So if you would like to work on some of those smaller attachments, that'll kind of help you to get some success under your belt, feel more comfortable. You'll see the mind becomes uplifted when you let these things go, and then it'll give you some more confidence to be able to let go of the bigger ones. So sometimes you would like to work on the smaller things first, and then this will help you to be able to then soften up the mind, get it used to letting go, seeing that success, and then you're able to more readily work on the big ones. But as you've probably heard me share, there was some cravings and attachments that I had to work for 3, 4, 5, 6 years to let go of before the mind would finally let it go. So there's going to be some deeply held attachments like that are sticking around, that it's going to take a while. So just be patient and just have the dedication, the diligence, and the confidence that you're headed in the right direction. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm going to come back to you, Yusuf, if you'd like to go ahead.
Okay, so if no one has any questions, then we can discuss some simple things between you and me. I will first start with the loving kindness meditation. When I tell you to describe a man, you will say, the unenlightened mind will usually say that he is yelling, he is mad, or he is harsh, or some things like this. I don't really know how to describe it, but I guess you understand how we describe a man. And when we try to describe a woman, we will say that she is calm, kind, gentle, has a soft sound, or some things like this. So when I try to do loving kindness meditation and see the results of it on my personality, when I have like a soft sound, a kind sound, or when I smile a lot, when I be more kind to everyone, I will feel like I am like a girl or something like this, because we are not used to do those kind things as men. We used to be harsh, mad, and some things like this. So how to let go of this, if you have any advice on this?
Sure. So I wouldn't agree with your characterization of a man and a woman, because there's women who can be quite strong and quite powerful, and there can be men who are more softer. And if your mind is clinging to this perception, which it sounds like it is, the perception that a man is strong and firm and harsh and a woman is soft and gentle, by you clinging to that perception, what a perception is a view or opinion about the world that may seem to be true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. If you keep clinging to that perception, then you're going to judge yourself as being feminine or a woman by becoming softer or more gentler. So you need to, one, let go of the perception that a man is strong and a woman is softer and more gentle, because it doesn't matter the gender. You can actually find people that are of all different qualities. The second thing is you're going to need to eliminate your judgment of yourself, which is coming from your conceit, which we've talked about many times, and you know where to find the teachings in volume 1, chapter 16, because as long as there's that conceit in there, which is part of the ego, you're going to be measuring and comparing and judging other people, but you're also going to put that on yourself too. That's one of the reasons why you need to let it go. The Buddha talks about judgment, and he says you're only harming yourself, which I agree with. You're only harming your own mind by having judgment there, because not only are you judging other people and wanting them to be a certain way and classifying them as wholesome or unwholesome or what have you, or good or bad or what have you. Instead, not only are you doing it there, you're doing it towards yourself too, which you would like to eliminate, because this can be degrading and diminishing to your own mind. And this is helpful probably for Julia too, because this is what's causing Julia to look at herself in maybe a negative or degrading way. This is the conceit. So we're not in that chapter yet. We've got about another 5 weeks. So some of you guys haven't seen that, but Yusuf, I know that you have. And these are the things that you would like to consider in order to eliminate this. In order to eliminate your clinging to a perception, you need to understand what a perception is, and you need to train your mind that whenever there's a perception there, to let it go and let it go and let it go, and don't cling to a perception.
Well, for myself, I have seen chapter 16 about the ego, but as you said, might others here didn't see it. So can I continue about what you just said, or skip to the next question because they didn't see the ego?
You can ask any questions you like, Yusuf. This conversation, at least for you and I, is about you getting help. You don't need to ask questions that you know that other people will understand. This is for your benefit. And then the other people, wherever they are in their practice, they're going to be able to learn. And some students here have been learning with me a lot longer than you have. So don't think that they haven't necessarily studied chapter 16.
Okay, so what you just said is judging myself. I can say that it is hard for me to see where the ego arises. To see discontentedness arising, it's a little bit easy, but to see the ego, it is hard. So I have been judging myself for a long time. But yesterday, I just noticed myself judging. I noticed it yesterday. I didn't know about it before. So what I was doing, I was talking to my brother and I was feeling discontent. I was not concentrating, not mindful. So I did judge myself. Oh, why, Yusuf, are you doing this? Why are you not concentrating? Why are you having discontentedness and etc.? But then I just had a thought that why are you saying those things to yourself? It is just the way that your mind functions. You are still not enlightened. It is just the way that your mind functions, and it is the ego wanting the mind to function a better way. So this is judgment about my mind. So can you help me, any advice about this judgment and the ego wanting to be better just right now without waiting the result of the practice?
It all comes back to the same thing. It's the mind craving and clinging. And when you see the mind doing that, you need to recognize it for what it is and redirect the mind and let it go. And realize that, yes, you're a work in progress. You're not enlightened yet. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have missteps. Your mind's going to do these things. You already know the reason why. So, as long as you understand that wisdom, which you do, which is the mind is unenlightened, now just understand, okay, silly mind, you're a work in progress. Let's just keep going with our day, right? And now don't want this unwholesome quality to be eliminated right now. Just realize that, okay, that unwholesome quality is there. The mind's being judgmental. The mind's being egotistical and arrogant. Now I'm going to redirect the mind and start being more loving and more kind, because you need to accumulate enough of these benefits before the mind will make these shifts. That's why it's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. But with craving in there, the mind's going to want everything right now. I want peacefulness right now. I want enlightenment right now. I want this ego gone right now. I want this judgment gone right now. It's not going to work that way. It's going to gradually get worn away. So you're going to need to be patient with yourself. You're going to need to take your time and accumulate these benefits over time. It's going to be a long journey. You've got several years before you get to enlightenment. So you might as well strap yourself in and enjoy the ride.
Okay. It's about before studying Buddhism or under your guidance and now. Before, my mind was functioning in a better way in some things and a lot worse in other things. And now I am feeling joyful. Okay, I am feeling joyful, but I can't function the same way I did before. What I mean here, before I failed in some I don't know the word, but it's like English, physics, chemistry. I failed in those before studying Buddhism, and I did been able to read them and success in them. But now, even though that I am joyful, I can't read, I can't study. I don't know how to make my mind study, put the effort to study or do things like this, put a lot of hours in boring things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're going to have these ups and downs like this. And I wouldn't attribute it to the study of Buddhism. It's the craving, desire, attachment. That's what's producing the boredom. The mind might be more aware of it now because you've been practicing these teachings and you have more mindfulness. So you're aware of them now since practicing the Buddha's teachings. But these things have always been there. Buddhism didn't cause these bored feelings or these lonely feelings. Buddhism didn't cause the cravings, desires in your mind. The Buddhist teachings are just pointing them out to you so you have more wisdom about them and you're gaining more qualities of mind so that you can see them and observe them. And that's why you're noticing them more than you have in the past.
Okay, so you say that an enlightened being will function 100% wisely. So what do you say it would be wise to do for a student that is studying? Because I am a college guy, but I never, ever open a book and study. I just can't. Mm-hmm. So what would you say here?
Yeah, everybody's a bit different. When I went to college, I had to go to every single class because I learned best when I was sitting in front of the professor and learning in the classes. And I had to read my books, sometimes more than once. That's the way that it worked for this mind. And every mind is different. There were some students who would come on the first day of class and they would come on the last day of class because there was only one exam for the entire class, and they would ace that exam and they would pass the class. They didn't even have to be there. They would just study at home, or I don't know how they did it, but they were able to do that. So everybody's a bit different. Part of this journey into enlightenment is to understand this mind and figure out what it's going to take in order to accomplish the goals that you are setting out to accomplish. So if you aren't interested in reading, but you can learn and study in other ways, then great, wonderful. That's the way that you figured out that this mind works. But you need to be very objective with the mind, because if you're not reading and you're getting failing grades, that tells you that you haven't figured out this mind yet, and that there's things that you're not doing that you could potentially do that would be helpful for you in your growth and development and education.
Okay, then. A week ago, 10 days ago, I was feeling joyful. I was feeling very joyful. But 3 days after that, I went out with my friend. I stayed all the day out, not in the house. I wasn't able to meditate for 1 day, never meditated that day. And the second day, I think I did meditate once. So after that, I have been in a week full of discontentedness. My mind is not able to concentrate. I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't able to function in a very well way. So how to fix this problem if one just can't meditate that day? Will his mind just fall?
This early in your practice, your mind's going to go up and down quite a bit because it's not steady, it's not stable, and you haven't accumulated the benefits. So if you get consistent with your meditation, you're going to see more results. And that's why when these kinds of situations happen where you haven't been meditating and you notice that your mind regresses and you have difficulties, this is where you start to gain the wisdom that, I can't stop meditating because I'll regret it later. This is what the Buddha teaches you, that, he says, meditate, monks, don't be complacent lest you regret it later. So that's what happened, is you became complacent and then you regretted it later when you weren't able to sleep and things like this. So your mind will regress if you're not staying dedicated and consistent on your practice, because your mind gets used to having this really wonderful thing, like in this case meditation, and you're giving it this great meditation, and then you stop and the mind's like, hey, what'd you do? Like, what's going on? It's kind of like if you're feeding a plant really great plant food and water, and then you just stop giving it, it will wilt and die. It will fall apart, right? The same thing like with a human being. If it's eating all this great quality food and then all of a sudden it's not having this good quality food anymore, it's going to have a lot of difficulties. So the mind is the same way, and it's more sensitive early in practice like this. As you get going and you get a lot more meditation under your belt, if you miss a meditation here or there, or even a day of meditation, you're not going to have those same effects. But early on, like, there's a lot of pollution that's in your mind. So if you get some consistent meditation going and then you stop meditating, that pollution can rush back in. So it's kind of like you've been knocking down the pollution, and then as soon as you stop meditating, boom, here it comes again. So you would like to be very dedicated and very consistent. And as you do, you're going to see more and more improvements to the mind as you're accumulating those benefits.
Okay, then let's say that I just couldn't meditate in any day of the future days. What can I do? Like, I remember you once said that you can meditate even if you are in a bus. So what I tried that day is to meditate while I am in the street, waiting for my friend. I just closed my eyes and focused on my breath. I don't know if this will work or something. I did feel a little better, but what would you advise?
So if you're finding that you don't have time to meditate, that's because you're not making the time. Your life isn't living in the middle way, that you've got too many activities, too many things that you're doing. In order for you to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to consistently meditate over a long-term period, multiple years. So you're going to need to make more and more space in your life, whether it's reducing your social media time, your YouTube time, your other things that you're doing, spending time with friends or whatever it is that you do. You're going to need to reduce some of these things in order to make space in your life. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to be able to see the results. Grabbing a 2-minute meditation here or a 10-minute meditation there in the street, that's not going to do it. You need to be dedicated to the work, and creating space in your life is what's going to ultimately allow you to get to enlightenment. And you're going to need to do that over a long-term period. And not just the meditation, but coming to classes and reading books and asking questions and all these different kinds of things. You're going to need to be doing all of these things. So if you're not making time for meditation, you haven't really firmly got on the path to enlightenment yet. You're not understanding how important meditation is, and you're not dedicated enough. Your mind is still complacent.
Okay. Would you like to check if any guy has any question? They want to come to me?
Yeah, I'm already checking. If I see something, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, there's more than guys that are on here too. We have females as well.
Yeah, I know, but I think we say guys, which we are referring to both genders, right? When we say guys.
I'm just messing with you.
In my country, we do, but I don't know in your English. I guess now I can go to a deeper questions that is really about my daily life. So once you said that to stop broadcasting about myself, because that is egoic. After I did that, I feel like a ton of iron has been gone from my back. You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. I feel really light, not as I was feeling heavy before, but I still. What I mean here, I said before that my ego is the reason for most of my desires, especially with girls, because I want to be something front of them. So after stop broadcasting about myself, a lot of those desires about girls did fade away. But there are still about them that I still don't know how to let go of them. Let's leave the desire for being happy with them aside. That is an easy one. But the others, I don't know how to let them go. I guess it is related to the sexual desire, because once you said that if one is in the third stage of enlightenment, I guess, or the second, he will still have desires or discontentedness related to sexuality. So uh, how to know that those desires I have about girls, that I can eliminate them or not? Are they related to the mind or to the body, like sexuality? Like a guy in the third stage of enlightenment will not be able to eliminate the sexual desires unless he eliminates the whole sexual desire thing. So, are you understanding, or I should put it in a better way?
I can understand, but I can tell where the confusion is in your mind. So let me help you clear that up.
Before that, can I just continue to say something small?
Uh,
So I don't know if I will be. So I don't know if I will be able to eliminate those desires, or they are just related to the sexuality of the body. Should I try to eliminate them, or they will stay and I will not be able to eliminate them until I eliminate the sexuality desire?
Okay. So any kind of desire for sex, it's not in the body, it's in the mind. Oftentimes people think that we're biologically wired for that, but that's not actually true. It's coming from the mind. The mind is the boss, the body is the employee. And the way that you know that the body doesn't have any sexual desire is that when the mind is gone, i.e., at the time of death, the body just lays there and does nothing. There's nothing in the body. The body's not interested in having sex when the mind's gone. It's only when the mind is there there's an interest for sex. And it's not that someone's in the first or second stage of enlightenment that they're still going to have discontentedness around sex. There's the potential for that, but it's as long as there's the desire for sexual contact. So you can have sensual desire in your mind without having a desire for sex. There's some people that they never really are that interested in sex from the very beginning, where other people very early in life, they have a real strong desire. So we talk about sensual desire, which is the longing, yearning through the six sense bases, which is the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind itself. And that gets fully eliminated as the mind's moving into the third stage of enlightenment. But within that sensual desire, within that mental object or that fetter of sensual desire, somewhere in there is potentially the desire for sexual contact. And some people have eliminated that aspect of sensual desire or never even really maybe had very much of it to begin with. But there's other sensual desires in the mind. So somebody could eliminate the craving or desire for sexual contact long before they're even in the first stage of enlightenment, but they still have sensual desire as it relates to other things that are in the mind. So it's the mind that is craving for sexual contact. Once you train the mind, the body doesn't have anything there other than bones and fluid and blood and pus and saliva and tears and urine and feces and muscle tissue and all these different things. That's what the body is contained of. The body itself is not thinking about anything or doing anything. It's the mind that is doing all of these things, because the mind is the boss and the body is the employee. So when you purify the mind of its sensual desire, which is moving into the third stage of enlightenment, at that point, an individual won't have any sexual contact because their mind has eliminated all sensual desire, including the desire for sexual contact.
So what I can get from here, because I didn't really understand this, it's a hard words and things like this, that I can eliminate the desires for girls, but I still can have some sexual, wanting to have sexual things, I guess.
No. There's sensual desire, meaning the mind is longing, yearning through the six sense bases. So let's just say you hear music that you really like and you get so excited when you hear this music. That's sensual desire. When you eat a piece of cake, sad because it doesn't taste exactly the way you want it, that's sensual desire. But then there's the craving for sexual contact, which is part of sensual desire. So you can think of sensual desire like an umbrella. And inside of this umbrella, this sensual desire, you've got all these individual cravings, all these individual desires that the mind is longing, yearning through the six sense bases. And one of those, which is a very strong one typically for some people, is the craving for sexual contact. So what I'm describing to you is under this umbrella of sensual desire, an individual could eliminate this sexual craving at any time during their life. They might still have these other sensual desires. So a person, if they have sexual craving, it is a sensual desire, and that's where your mind is longing, yearning, in your case, for the opposite gender, a woman, and you're looking to have contact with her. And this is not uncommon for an individual, particularly at your age, that somebody might have this kind of craving in the mind. And that's where you'll get agitated and you'll get frustrated and your ego will arise and you're out there trying to, get your girl, kind of thing. And that's what the unenlightened mind is going to do. And if that's where you're at and that's what you would like to do, then that's what you do. But ultimately, by the time you get to the third stage of enlightenment, you will have extinguished that. And that may not be in the next year or two. It might not be in the next 10 years. But at some point, in order to get to enlightenment, you'll need to extinguish that longing, yearning, that craving for sensual desire, which sexual craving is one of those.
Okay, I guess I understand at a certain point, and I will understand even more when I rewatch this video. Also, here I would like to talk about awkwardness, because you are talking about this topic with girls, so let's talk about awkwardness. I know it is it's considered as discontentedness, but I don't really know how to deal with it. Like, for example, now I just met a girl. When I am around her, I feel like awkward, like I'm not shy or something, but I don't know how to act. Once you said that do not put the scenario in your head, do not make a story about what will happen. But when I don't do that, I will feel awkward because I just don't know what to do. So what awkwardness, what can I do about this? I don't know how to deal with it.
Okay, so you know enough that you know that this awkwardness is coming from craving, desire, attachment, right?
Yeah, I guess it is related to the judgment about the self, like do this and do that, do better and do certain things.
Yeah.
Not be the way you are.
Yeah, this is the personal existence first fetter, where the mind is wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And if you're not perceived that way, then your mind is frustrated or feeling awkward or agitated or some other discontent feeling. So you're going to have these kinds of experiences until you eliminate personal existence view. So that's why you need to slowly build up your practice. I've encouraged you multiple times to learn the Eightfold Path and build that up. And I still don't think that you've learned that close enough and you're not practicing that close enough. As you're practicing that closer and closer, you need to then focus on personal existence view and do the things that are in chapter 16 of volume 1 to be able to eliminate personal existence view. And then as you're doing those things, you're going to need to be in the situation enough times around women in this case, where you're going to be able to practice and train the mind to be calm and comfortable. This is also, not uncommon for somebody to experience this because you just haven't had enough experience being around someone that you're attracted to. And this is the mind craving and clinging not only to personal existence view and wanting to be perceived by others a certain way, but there's other cravings in there too, like this sexual craving, and your mind's wanting something from this person, and your mind's wanting this person to give you something, which is maybe affection, or maybe a certain touch, or a certain look, or a certain smile, or maybe sexual contact at some point. So as long as these wants are in there, the mind's just constantly racing and obsessed almost, trying to figure out how to get what it wants. And when it's not getting that, then it's going to feel these discontent feelings. So the more you train with the entire Eightfold Path in training the mind to eliminate personal existence view, then your mind will become more and more calm and more stable and more peaceful. And then there's a certain component of this that you're just going to need to be around enough women and get experience with that your mind can be calm and confident in those situations.
Okay. Do we still have time to discuss another thing?
Sure.
Okay. So about do not talk about yourself a lot and start asking questions about others. I wrote down more than one question about this, but I don't think that the questions will lead anywhere. So I just need to understand the point of what you were trying to teach me there. Let me just read it from where I wrote it.
Let
You
me
say
let me
to
add
not talk
something here, Yusuf. Before you ask your question, I would like to just set up your mind a little bit better for what you're about to talk about, because the way that you're phrasing what I've taught you isn't the way that I've taught it to you. Where your mind's thinking, and you just said, don't do this and stop doing this. This isn't the way that I would think about it if I was you. The way that you need to be able to think about it is that your teacher has advised you to consider not broadcasting about yourself and allowing the ego to come through where you're just talking about yourself so much in front of your friends. And I've suggested to you that you consider not doing these particular things. So rather than think about it as don't do this and stop doing this, which sounds like a bunch of rules and commandments, it's better for you to be able to see the wisdom in that it's unwise to go into a situation where you're just talking about yourself throughout the entire conversation, or even for, a big bulk of the conversation. So you would like to be able to see the wisdom in it, that it's not your teacher telling you don't do this or stop doing this. What I'm teaching you is that it's unwise to allow the ego to arise in conversations, because when you're talking in conversations and you allow the ego to arise and you become boastful and arrogant and prideful and talking a lot about yourself, people aren't going to like that, and they're going to push you aside, and you're going to find it very difficult to have harmonious relationships with people.
Yeah, I do understand that. I just said it the way I said it, to like shorten it. I didn't want to go deep in that thing because it is not necessary. But as I said, because my English is not my native language, I do say things that I don't sometimes really mean. Only sometimes to shorten it, and sometimes because I don't know how to put it.
So one of the parts on the path to enlightenment is to learn vocabulary and to learn communication and learn how to communicate what's really going on inside the mind. So if you're challenged with the language and the vocabulary, this is an opportunity for you to learn those things, because in order for you to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to cultivate wisdom about many things, not just the path to enlightenment, but even around vocabulary and language. Even me being a native speaker, I needed to investigate vocabulary, and I needed to investigate certain English words so that I could actively work towards the path, because the way that you speak is the way that the mind thinks. So by you speaking the way that you did, don't allow the mind to minimize what you're experiencing and what you're saying. Instead, look at it as an area that you need to grow and develop, and that you take that on as a responsibility and objective as part of your journey to enlightenment.
Well, I will say something about this. It is also about my mind having discontentedness related to talking, because I can put it in a better way, the way I do understand it, but I didn't, because my mind will say, why are you talking too much about unnecessary thing? Just go to your point. This is the reason that I sometimes don't really make you understand what I mean, because I have discontentedness related to this. So yeah, when I solve this discontentedness, I will be able to have more wisdom about how the way I talk.
So what I would share with that is that in order to eliminate your discontentedness, you're going to need to learn how to talk, right? So don't think of it as I'm going to eliminate my discontentedness and then I'm going to learn how to talk. No, in order to eliminate your discontentedness, you're going to need to learn how to talk in a wise way. That's part of the path. So you're going to need to come to terms with this, put your arms around it and embrace it and be like, you know what? I don't know the English language very well, and I need to understand it. And probably even your native language of Arabic, you probably don't even understand that as deeply as you might think. So no matter what language you're communicating in, as you're moving closer and closer to enlightenment, you're going to need to get really in touch with the words and vocabulary and what these words communicate to large numbers of people, because otherwise you're going to be causing harm through your spoken words and not even realize that that's what you're doing if you lack the wisdom of what these words mean and how to communicate.
Well, I can work about this discontentedness, but I just prefer not to, because when I see that my mind doesn't have enough from the Eightfold Path, or enough from the meditation practice, I don't put much weight on it. Solve this discontentedness, and solve this and that and this and that. No, I go one by one. So because I have noticed that I have discontentedness related to talking, but I just didn't put the mind in this situation where I solve it, because I am facing the ego and other stuff, and that already make my mind very, very, very like heavy or tired or something like this. So sometimes I close an eye about some things, try to solve them later when I have the chance to do it.
So the last time that we've been speaking over the last few weeks, and I shared with you about eliminating and considering to eliminate this egoistic talk that you have in your conversations, you listened to that advice over a few conversations, you implemented it, and then you noticed the improvement that now your back has less weight and there's less heaviness. You've let go of this burden and you're actually feeling a bit better. So this is some additional advice that I'm giving you, because as I learn your mind, each student, as you guys ask questions and we interact together, I start learning your mind. And when I can see the challenges that you're experiencing, I'm going to give you advice in order to help you and guide you. And if you say, I'm not interested in that advice, I'm not interested in implementing that advice, that's your choice, and that's the choice that you're going to make. But just understand that as a teacher and someone who's interested in helping you and has nothing but loving kindness and compassion for you, I'm going to provide you the advice. What you choose to do with it is your choice, but you shouldn't think that you're going to be able to get to enlightenment without focusing on improving the way you speak and the way you communicate. So while you just shared that you're not wanting to focus in on your communication, I understand that's your choice, but just understand that you're not going to be able to experience the uplifting and the brightness and the radiance and the joy and the elimination of this weight on your shoulders as long as you're not choosing to heed the advice of the teacher, the very person who's interested in helping you and guiding you towards this enlightened mental state. Because I've been where you are before, and I'm sharing with you the things you're going to need to do to improve. And if you're unwilling to do those things, that's understandable. That's where you're at. But just understand that you're not going to see the progress that you're looking to see. So while you have these different questions that you ask and you're interested in getting answers to them, if you're not willing to do the work that the teacher's describing to you that you need to do, you're going to keep clawing away at this thing, and you're just going to keep spinning your tires over and over and over again. You're not going to be making forward progress because you're not willing to implement the advice and the guidance of the person who's helping you to be able to accomplish what it is you're looking to accomplish, which is the enlightened mind.
Okay, thank you for the advice, but let me make you understand more if you didn't understand. What I meant is I prefer not to put my mind in that desire right now, because my mind is already heavy of other desires such as the ego, a lot of different stuff. So when I do come and put my mind in all the desires I have, will only like knock me down and make me feel very tired, losing the energy and everything. Because what will motivate me is having a little bit joy. So whenever I see a desire and go put myself in it, you know that the enlightened might have maybe thousands of desires, I will feel like tired very much. I will feel very discontented. So that's why I said I would not like to work on that right now, which is the present time, but maybe a week later, 2 weeks, a month, and yeah. So do you understand that?
Yes, I understood that before, Yusuf. You know, what you choose to do is up to you. This is your independent journey to enlightenment. But as soon as a student understands right view, which is the three universal truths, the four noble truths, and things like this, the very next thing that it's important for them to learn is the moral conduct, the right speech, the right action, and right livelihood. So that's where, you know, I've talked with you and helped you to be able to see more of right speech, because as long as you're out in the world speaking in unwise ways, you're just producing unwholesome karma, and this is more unwholesome karma that you have to deal with and that's coming back to you. So even though you just shared what you shared, if I was you, I would prioritize the right speech, the right action, and right livelihood, because even the Buddha during his lifetime, that's what he taught. As soon as a student understands right view, it's right into the moral conduct from that point forward.
Okay, then I will I will go after your advice. Thank you for it.
It's really interesting, to talk about all these other like deeper topics that your mind is interested in talking about, like, sensual desire and sexual contact and chasing girls and the ego. And, this is like all that sexy stuff that the mind wants to talk about, right? But remember, like, we have this saying, I don't know if you have this saying, if you know the saying in English, we say, don't put the cart before the horse, right? Because the horse needs to be first, because the horse is what's pulling the cart. So if you put the cart first, then you've got this whole thing backwards, right? So while your mind with this ego might be interested to jump into some of these more sexy topics, so to speak, I would encourage you to do what the Buddha did, what the Buddha knows works, what I know works, which is really focus on the Eightfold Path very closely and focus on the moral conduct very closely. While I'll answer your questions that you ask, you're spending a lot of time over multiple conversations, not just here in class, but in our private conversations. You're spending a lot of time looking at all these things that are way down the path. You're looking at like step 20 or step 100, step 300, but you haven't even gotten step 2 or 3 or 4 taken care of yet. And this is where I mentioned to you that you're building a house of cards where it's going to fall apart for you really quickly. I've seen people just like you before that their ego is there. They're focused on all these really deep, challenging topics way down the path, and they don't spend the time focused on the basics and the foundational things. And this is why they end up falling apart. After a year or 2 or 3, it all falls apart on them, and they're struggling, and maybe they even leave from the path to enlightenment. And this is what I see for you as well, because your mind isn't willing to do the work to build the foundation and make sure you have a solid foundation. The mind is so much more interested in focusing on all these other things that I suggest that are just going to stand in your way of building up this nice strong foundation, which is what you need in order to carry you through the entire journey, because this is a long journey. It's not a race. It's not a hurry up and get somewhere. So while it's interesting to talk about the ego and these kinds of things, you're not going to be able to make any improvement on the ego, or very minimal improvement on the ego, if you don't have right speech down, because the ego is involved with the speech. So you got to get that worked on and really understand that well before you even start really focusing in a really dedicated way on some of these other things that you're interested to talk about.
Can you go to Mariam, because I have lack in the internet now?
Okay, sure. All right, so Miriam, let's see. She says, it's good to be back. Thank you for this interesting and meaningful question and answer. It makes me realize that when I experience discontent, I just focus on letting it go. I don't deeply think about the cause of it, and I try not to go back and analyze it. I pay more attention to my bodily sensations and going back to a calm state than categorize the source of discontentedness, which is almost always craving for permanence and attachment. Am I missing something by not dissecting the negative events? I notice that I talk a lot less with people, including loved ones, as soon as I understand we're not on the same path, wavelength. I just stay out of the conversation. Deep conversations are rare. Okay, so the answer to your question, Miriam, is yes, you are missing something. That in the moment when your mind's discontent, it's always craving, desire, attachment. It's not that most often, it's always craving, desire, attachment. You might not know what those craving, desire, attachments are, but it's always going to be some craving, desire, attachment. So what you would like to do is do what you're doing, that focus on the bodily sensations with any discontentedness arising, cut that off and let it go. But then once the mind regains its composure, or if you were able to even save the mind from getting discontent through cutting off the bodily sensations, then what you would like to do is look inward. This is part of chapter 13 in the book, where I teach students to identify your cravings. So we're going to be talking about that in 2 weeks, where I help students to be able to look inward and be introspective and reflective, because you need to know what your cravings are, because there's specific things that you can do in order to go in and almost surgically remove these cravings out of the mind. So what I teach people in the early part of the group learning program is the breathing, mindfulness, meditation, and generosity, because you need to get that on board and moving forward. I teach the moral conduct and all these other things. But when we get to chapter 13, I'm going to teach you how to look inward and be able to analyze what are your cravings, desires, attachments. And you can go look at that now if you'd like to, because it's been recorded many, many times. You can go to our YouTube channel and just search chapter 13 and you'll be able to find it, where the title is Identifying Your Cravings, Analysis of the Mind. And this is going to help you to understand how to uncover each individual craving and then almost surgically go in and remove it. So you are going to need that. What you're talking about in terms of not being involved in many conversations, this is typical. That what you'll find is that in the unenlightened state, we tend to be just blah, 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 talking about all kinds of stuff and having all kinds of conversations and arguing about this and expressing our opinions about this and telling people our views about this. And we just spend a lot of time doing that stuff. For what? For what? Just because we want everybody to know about us. It's craving, desire, attachment. So when your craving, desire, attachment is starting to be reduced, you'll notice that you're less interested in getting out there and telling everybody what you think and how you do things, because you understand that that's not fruitful and it's unwise. So you'll find that you'll probably have less conversations. And when you do have conversations, they're going to be conversations where you're not arguing, you're not bitter, and you're not harsh. More and more, you'll notice that those things won't be there anymore. But as your mind brightens up and you kind of make your way through to the first, second, third, fourth stage of enlightenment, you'll notice that you have a lot of wisdom, and there's going to be lots of people that are curious about what you do and how you do it, and they're going to be curious why you're so peaceful and why you're always smiling and why you're so cheerful. And people are going to be asking you those things and like, how did you accomplish that? And that's where you will probably notice that your conversations will go back up and you'll start increasing. So there's kind of like this shrinking of your life that happens as you're making your way on the journey to enlightenment, and you kind of go in and you do all this inner work, and then there's this expansion of your life where you start expanding back out. I oftentimes refer to this as the bow tie, where early in life our life is wide open and then it kind of starts to shut down a bit and we get into the knot of the bow tie, and that's where we're doing all this inner work. And then as we do that work, then we start expanding back out the other side of the bow tie. So if you're starting to shrink down, that's completely normal. And then you just use that time, which could be actually multiple months and multiple years of doing that work. And then eventually you'll notice that you'll start to expand back out again. And this is just the normal life cycle and progression of somebody who's on the journey to enlightenment. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. I think Yosef might have came back in, but there's no mic there. You're welcome, Miriam. Okay, there's no mic there. I think that might be Yosef, but okay. So what I'm going to do is just in class here, and Yosef, if your mic comes back on, it's okay. We can talk after class. But what I'll do is just thank all of you guys for joining for today's class and invite you to our future classes, which this Sunday of the group learning program, we're going to be in chapter 11, talking about meditation and developing your meditation practice. There's 4 specific meditations that one might use and employ at any given time during their journey to enlightenment. There's 2 primary ones that we focus on those, but then there's these 2 specialized ones that you might need at different times. So I'm going to be discussing those too as part of our class on Sunday. And then next Wednesday, I'm going to be doing loving kindness meditation with students, and then opening up to any and all questions that you guys might have related to the path to enlightenment, just like we did today and just like we did last week. So thank you all for joining. And as you have questions, you're always welcome to reach out. I'll see you guys perhaps in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Sawadee krap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/supportbuddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.